right here.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our presentation of our 2023 TikTok study. I'm really excited to go through the data today and answer some of the biggest questions that we have asked ourselves about TikTok. So if you guys joined us a few weeks ago, we also just launched our Instagram study. So you can access that. We can drop a link to our Instagram study if you want to read through that. But yeah, let's get into it. If everyone wants to say hi.
Drop in the chat where you're from, where you're tuning in from.
So with this study, we had a first version of it launch back in March. And this is our updated study in 2023. So the first one, we analyzed just about 2 million videos. And this study, we now have analyzed over 3 million videos. So it kind of gives an overall insight into what's been working on TikTok this year, what trends we've seen. So yeah, some pretty interesting stuff. But if you have any questions during this presentation, make sure to leave them in the comments and we'll get to them at the end. We'll do a big Q&A. So yeah, and we can see what surprised us most.
And a lot has changed in terms of like the sample size just from March to now. So that's been really interesting as well.
Yes. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so when we're looking back at the study that we launched in March, we kind of saw here some of the big conclusions. So as an account size increased, we saw the engagement grow, which is pretty surprising considering that if account size increases, it's harder to maintain that engagement rate. We also saw that those, viral videos with the most views had an average length of 41.8 seconds. And then the best hour and the best time to post was 8 p.m. every day, except Saturdays at 6 p.m. And then the best day to post was on Tuesday, followed closely by Friday. Okay, so now let's get into the data. So with this study, we looked at 37,636 personal accounts, 47,625 business accounts, and then overall over 3 million videos. So a lot of data to work with. And how we kind of organized this data was by breaking it up into different sample groups. So you can see that we have tiny, small, medium, big, and huge. So this is kind of based on the number of followers the account has and then their average number of views. So just to be able to compare the data.
Oh, and really quickly, if you would like to follow along with the study while we're presenting, we're going to drop that in the comments as well so that you can follow along with all the graphs that we'll be looking at and all the data. And when you're reading through the study, you'll see that all of the accounts are designated by those names like tiny, huge. So just so you know.
Yes. I'm also going to add the QR code to the TikTok study so you can scan this or you can head to the link in the comments. But yeah, if you want to follow along with the actual live study, then pull it up. So one of the questions that we asked that gets asked all the time on TikTok is it better to have a personal or a business account? I think this is kind of one of the biggest debates on the network. So One of the things that we found was that we looked at monthly posting frequency. So how many videos accounts are posting per month. So we can see that personal accounts have a higher posting frequency compared to business accounts. So when we broke this down, both of them reached that average posting frequency of 3 videos a week, but the personal accounts were those that were posting 1 extra video. So
And this makes sense too, just because if you think about it, usually like company or business accounts, they tend to have to go through approvals or just have a longer process of what kind of content they're going to put out. So it makes a little bit more sense that although they're keeping up with that average posting frequency, that personal accounts would be able to bump out content more often.
mhm. And then the next one we looked at was the views per video for business and personal accounts. So generally personal accounts have higher, have more views than business accounts, which is also interesting, but it kind of, again, goes back to your point of the approval process. And, as we have found out, the network really does favor consistency. So that could, lead to higher views if you're having a higher posting frequency. Okay, and then another thing is the average video duration. So this gets, debated a lot of how long your video should be, and what length the video is going to retain your audience. So compared to last year's study, we actually saw an increase in video length for both business and personal accounts. So business accounts had an increase in 10%, and personal accounts had an increase in 15% in video length. So this is interesting just because, it seems that people are leaning more towards those videos closer to a minute rather than what we saw last time around 40 seconds.
And if you also look at the graph too, it's also interesting to see that even though that, there's 2 different types of accounts, it's really not that big of a difference. It's only like a few seconds. So the video range is staying pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm. And I think this also kind of goes along with the higher video views, or, the more views, the more frequent posting, but the engagement rate for personal accounts is higher than business accounts. So yeah, what do you think?
It's also, so if you were here with us maybe 2 weeks ago or so when we were talking about our Instagram study, we did talk a lot about how with reels, like the overall like with everything, the overall engagement has decreased, and that's because there's more competition. And we're seeing the same exact thing happen with TikTok. Compared to our last study, there are much more business accounts on the platform, because before, TikTok kind of seemed like companies were like, should we jump on it? Should we not? And now it's very much like a leading platform to grow on. So we're seeing with increased competition, we're seeing kind of just an overall decrease in engagement rate, but personal accounts are still leading.
Yeah. Okay. And the next question, one of the biggest questions on TikTok is, does follower size matter? So this graph really exemplifies that it doesn't. The TikTok algorithm has worked very efficiently to kind of have an equal playing field for all videos. So even if you don't have, a huge following on TikTok, it still is exposed to a large audience. So more important, what we found is the quality of the content, rather than, how many followers you have, or how many people you're following. So kind of a interesting and cool thing to know for those that are wanting to get started on TikTok and, might not have a big audience yet. And then another question, who has the best engagement rate? So when we mean who, kind of what account size has the highest engagement rate?
And then for this, it's actually the tiny accounts and the huge accounts, and then everything else kind of trickles in between. And we find that this is very interesting because while it makes sense for the tiny accounts to have higher engagement rates, just because they tend to have a little bit more of a tight knit community, so their engagement rates are pretty comparable to their following size. But for the huge accounts, it's interesting to note that they still can maintain that engagement rate, even if, sometimes once you get bigger, you can't necessarily keep up with that engagement. So that's also something important to keep in mind, that like it doesn't really matter too much of your account size, because that engagement rate can work in your favor either on either end of the spectrum that you're on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so kind of going off what Alex just recapped, but the engagement generally grows as the account size increases, but then obviously with exception to the smaller accounts where, the higher the percentage of the followers that are viewing is, it's hard to explain. Like the higher percentage of your followers are going to be continuing to engage with that content. So it's going to kind of boost your engagement. But yeah, interesting that those large accounts can maintain that engagement rate. Okay, and this graph shows the average video duration based on account size. So as the account size increases, the length of the video increases. And then, of course, another question that is commonly asked on TikTok is, what is the average length of viral videos on TikTok? So when we talk about viral, in terms of this study, we're really looking at just the highest number of views. But we found that the average duration for those, viral videos is 54 seconds. So compared to our last study in March, this number was 41.8 seconds. So we can see that there's been an increase in 12 seconds of kind of those viral videos. So yeah, I think it's interesting when we really think about this in terms of kind of our society's attention span, it's interesting that it continues to increase, those length of viral videos rather than decrease.
Especially because TikTok was originally such a platform for that short form content. And while, like, if you really think about the bigger picture, 1 minute is not that long in general, but it is very interesting that it continues to get longer as opposed to shorter, or even staying like at that average, 30 seconds. And now we're getting closer to that minute mark. And with TikTok rolling out, the 3 minute and the 10 minutes. So I wonder if, as it continues to progress, if that longer form content is going to kind of become the newer trend.
Yeah. I also think since every platform has expanded their time limit, maybe, this is obviously, it seems to be favoring those longer videos and a way to kind of keep people active and keep people consuming the platform is to keep presenting those videos that are longer and to really favor longer videos.
I actually think that sometimes when I'm on TikTok, I get like a prompt that says to that your audience enjoys like longer videos and to keep creating those. I've gotten that prompt before. Or even when I'll go to edit a video and I have multiple clips that I'm gonna edit down to less than a minute, it says oh, make sure you add captions or you add things that are intriguing to keep your audience watching through the full length of the video.
Interesting. Okay. So then this graph looks at the average number of views based on video duration. So kind of flips the previous graph that we saw. So once again, we can see that, those videos that are 54 seconds and on receive the most number of views. Okay. And then how many videos should you upload to TikTok per day? So here we can see that kind of as the account size increases, then the posting frequency also increases. So looking at Tiny, they have, I can't even see, they have an average posting frequency of 0.7, and then huge accounts have an average of 2.3.
Perfect. Yes, you're right.
I'm blind. I don't have my glasses on.
Yes, that's correct. But yeah, as the accounts get bigger, they essentially are pumping out more content from this graph, is what it's saying.
So then does posting frequency influence reach and interaction? So, basically if you post more, are you going to receive higher reach, more interactions? So here we can see that when we break it up into low, medium, and high frequency, the engagement rate doesn't change, a ton. We can see that it peaks at that medium frequency rate. But overall, it doesn't seem that, whether you're posting one video or 3 videos a week, it's not having a significant impact. But when it comes to those interactions, the higher frequency is going to be favored on the network. And same with views. So that higher posting, that higher frequency is going to be favored and going to help boost interactions and views. And then, of course, the notorious question that's always asked is, what is the best time to upload a TikTok? So here's kind of a overall chart of the best hours, and the blue is Monday through Friday, the pink is Saturday, and then the yellow is Sunday. So we can see that every day from Monday to Friday, there's a peak at about 8 p.m., except for Saturday where the peak's about 6 p.m. I always think this is interesting too, because I guess it makes sense when we think about the times that we're most on our phone, most scrolling. I think this 8 p.m. does stay pretty true. I mean, I think for me, this is a time that I am probably going to be scrolling. But yeah, I think it's interesting that it.
And I agree too. I'm usually on TikTok in the evenings, especially if you take into account like a standard work schedule. Like I feel like it's after dinner time, like that's your winding down time when people are more than likely to be on their phones scrolling or being like, let me look at what TikToks I haven't, like that people have sent me for the day. I think it does make sense. And I also even think that the shift for Sunday makes sense too, just because again, like Sunday's kind of like always traditionally seen as that like day of relaxing, day of resting, kind of that lazy day.
Yeah.
I'm also seeing that in the comments we're getting what time zone that this is for. We get this a lot, so it's actually any time zone. This is like a global time that we found when we broke down all the data.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so once again, best hour to post is 8 p.m. every day except Saturdays, which is at 6 p.m. And then what is the best day to post? So here it breaks down average number of views for each day of the week. So the day that generates the highest number of views is on Tuesday. But here we can see, that Monday, Friday, and Wednesday are close behind. So, but Tuesday is the day that generates the highest number of views.
And then this one shows the average number of comments. And for this one, it's actually Friday.
So to break it down, day that generates the most views is Tuesday, and then the day that videos receive the most comments is Friday. So then generally the best time to post a TikTok in 2023 is Friday at 8 p.m. So if you're trying to reach your audience, then, also obviously this is what we gathered from this sample, this study, but each audience is different. So we recommend to, take this data and then bring it back to your own strategy and look at your personalized hours, see when your audience is on TikTok, but maybe test out some of these other times and see if it, gains more interactions or more comments. So, yeah.
Yeah, like Aniston said, everyone's audience is going to differ. And don't forget that if you do have a Metricool account, you can actually see the best times to post based on your data within the Metricool planner. So if you can couple that with this study, you can kind of, fine tune your strategy, decide what days and times you want to post, what works best for you, and then tweak as you go along. And hopefully, get some answers from that.
Yes. Okay. And then in terms of when the most videos are posted, so Wednesdays are when we see the highest number of videos being posted, and then Sunday is when the least amount of videos are posted. So once again, this makes sense. Sundays are kind of those reset days, especially for businesses as well. Sundays are kind of, everyone's off, everyone's enjoying those days. So makes sense. Just recapping that. And then, do hashtags, mentions, sounds, or emojis bring in more views? So obviously, not surprising. The For You page really dominates in terms of traffic sources. But the second highest traffic source is following at just 6%. And then we can see that hashtags, sounds, and emojis, don't have a huge impact on where your traffic is coming from. But
it can help.
Yes. So this is just a traffic source distribution based on the account size. So, once again, here we can see that the For You page really dominates, for all accounts. But when it comes to those huge accounts, the following page really starts to increase more, which makes sense because there's, a larger number of followers.
I think it's also one other thing that's important to look at as well is the search option, just because as we all know, TikTok is kind of like the new search engine, especially for, those younger generations. So in comparison to like our previous study, you can see that the TikTok search function is being used more often. I think I'm guilty of it too. Like I'll go and look on TikTok if I want to find an answer before I go on Google. So that's also something to keep in mind, like for SEO purposes, if you are posting to TikTok, that you want to make sure your video is searchable.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those things like hashtags, sounds, emojis, those help signal and trigger the algorithm to help better rank your post. So they aren't, just useless. They're really important. And whereas they may not bring in, the most traffic sources, I think it's also, when we look at traffic sources, it's not the most important metric in terms of how well your video is going to perform. So make note of that. Okay, and then this is a comparison from 2023, from our 2022 study to our 2023 study, of just how the number of elements of each of these that are added in a video. So here we can see that there's been a decrease in
hashtags,
in words, in mentions, kind of in everything. So interesting to know.
It's also interesting to see that just mentions in general have stayed the same.
Yeah. Okay, so once again, kind of going over this. So no, these factors are not useless because they can help trigger the algorithm. to better rank your videos. So, continue to add in hashtags, emojis, keywords into your strategy to help, better rank your videos and have them appear in prioritized in the For You page. So, yeah. And then just to kind of go through and do a summary of this study. So overall, we saw that posting frequency and video length increased. Generally, regardless of account type, engagement rate has dropped. The videos that receive the most amount of views are 54 seconds. This one is really interesting, but visits from TikTok's search engine doubled. So just as we talked about how, that search ranking, or I guess more and more people are coming to TikTok to search for things that they want to find. It's becoming a huge search engine. So doesn't surprise me that this has doubled. And then the best hour to post is at 8 p.m. every day except Saturdays. And then the best day is Friday, followed closely by Tuesday. So now we're going to open it up for questions. If anyone wants to just drop some questions in the comments, these can be, about the TikTok study, about Metricool, about TikTok in general. So let us know what questions you have, or even if you want to just say what surprised you most about the data, then leave it in the comments.
Yes, and our study is very conversational. So, yeah, even if you want to just tell us what surprised you, we can open up a conversation about it and discuss it in the comments and with us.
Yes. And before we leave, or before we dive into the Q&A, first and foremost, Metricool is free, so you can always create your free account. But if you want to try any of our premium plans, you can use the code TikTok Study and receive 30 days for free using the code. So TikTok Study, you can enter this code in at checkout when you go to upgrade your account to premium. So yeah, make sure to try it out.
Yes. Okay. And don't forget to use the best times to post so that you can use that in comparison with our study so that you can find what works best for you for posting on TikTok.
Okay. This is a really good question. What is a low, medium, or high frequency of posting? So when we talk about kind of the average posting frequency, this is 3 videos or 3 posts per week. So then when we think of low and high, it would be anything that's lower than 3 videos a week, and then anything that's higher than 3 videos a week, if that makes sense.
And 3 is the average.
Yes. Okay. Another question about posting frequency. Many people are saying that you should post at least 3 times a day for accounts that are just starting out. Do you have any information about this? Oh, so I don't know if we have any specific information. Also, the 3 times a day, I don't know if we have any data about this, but the general posting frequency that is recommended is 3 videos or 3 posts a week. That's kind of the average posting frequency. So in terms of posting 3 times a day, I don't know.
I mean, that's aiming pretty high. I do remember that this is a common thing that is said, is when you're first starting out, you should be bumping out as much content. And so people say typically that 3 posts a day is what you should aim for. But if you kind of take into consideration a lot of the statistics in our study, like Aniston said, usually about 3 videos a week is good. You also want to take into account the quality of your content. Are you posting 3 videos a day to just post 3 videos a day, or are you posting 3 quality videos a day? So I think more so than focusing on posting 3 times a day every day, you should sit down, strategize. What do you want to post about? how often is feasible for you. You don't want to burn out like within the first week if you are bumping out that much content. I think all of those things are more important than just, getting those 3 videos up per day, because regardless, your videos hopefully are pushed out, especially, the more quality they are. It doesn't necessarily matter how many followers you have. But if you do find that 3 times a day is feasible for you, then I mean, by all means, that you could try that too.
Okay. Just want to address this really fast. Can this data be extrapolated to Spain or the US but in Spanish? Yes. So we have this same study that is also in Spanish. We can share the link in the comments below. So you can check out also the Spanish study. It's going to be the same information, but just in Spanish. So yeah, check it out.
I think we also had a question that was asking if this was just for the US, and it's globally. So all this information that we're sharing, like, because we have the studies in multiple languages, French, Spanish, and English. So this is the same across all the board.
Okay.
And then we're getting this question again, is what time zone are the times to post in? And again, it's globally. So it's always at 8 p.m. except for Sundays at 6.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to ask also, where can we download this PDF of the report? So we dropped in the comments the link to our blog post. So we don't have this in PDF, but you can access this on our blog. We just added that in the comments. So make sure to go to the blog post.
And if you are also tuning in late, or if you just want to refer back to this, this is going to live on our YouTube channel. So if you just find that you need to come back and follow along with the study in hand, you can always do that. All of our lives are recorded and they stay on our YouTube channel forever.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions that we have. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to our TikTok study presentation. We have been really excited to launch both the Instagram and TikTok studies in September. So once again, make sure to take this data back to your own strategy, and this really can help you, see what's going on both on Instagram, on TikTok, and kind of generally in social media across 2023. So yeah, we will be back
very soon.
And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.